It's another short Torah portion this week. We're going to be in Genesis chapter 41, verses 1 through 36, which is not the whole chapter. But we're going to watch Joseph go from prison to palace. This is all in God's will and all in His timing. So, you all have notes. Everybody got notes? Okay. Yep. All right. So Joseph and what we know about this guy so far, and also what we're going to find out. So I kind of gave you an intro there. What we know that Joseph interprets dreams. That's one of the first things we found out about him. He had some when he was a boy, right? And those dreams kind of resulted in his brothers hating him. And when he got the coat from his father, they hated him even more and sold him. And we know that Joseph also has a gift of administration. We found that out in the last couple of weeks. That's a spiritual gift. We also know that he was 17 years old when his brothers sold him for $20 worth of silver, modern day times. And this is what we're going to find out about him. We're going to find out that it has been 2 years since the butler's dream and his freedom from prison. Butler's freedom. We're going to find out that Joseph is 30 years old when he comes to begin his ministry as the deliverer of the world from the coming famine. Do you often think of, Joseph? Do you often think of him as a savior? Yeah. Do you? Oh, good. At the time, he literally delivered the known world from starvation. Because he had this gift of administration. Thank you. Okay. So if I were to, I'm kind of sort of the obvious, Russ. So if I were to take 30 years and I would subtract, which is how old he was when he comes to the palace, and 17 years when he was sold, I get 13 years. Does everybody come up with the same answer? Okay, good. Yay, I did it right. So we're also going to find out that it's been 13 years that Joseph has been in Egypt then, obviously, right? It has been 13 years since Jacob, his father, was given back the coat that he had given to his favorite son, Joseph. It was stained in blood. Was it Joseph's blood? No, it was the blood of a goat. Remember? Okay. When Yeshua comes back, he's going to be wearing a robe stained in blood. Just saying. For 13 years, Jacob has thought that his son was dead. It's been 13 years, and Jacob, who is now an old man, is still grieving. Do you remember what his reaction was? I will go down to the grave in grief over my son. He said that to his sons that were still standing there in front of him alive. And did those sons say anything? No. They stood there and they looked. We want to know where Jewish guilt comes from? Oh, that's good. All of them. Yeah, I'm talking about the group as a group. But the Jewish people all have this common sense of guilt about them somewhere. You talk to them very far. You talk to them 5 minutes, and pretty soon it's coming out. Jewish mothers are real good about piling guilt on their children. They just are. Their children are everything to them, but guilt is a big deal in the Jewish community. And I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's almost like a self-wrapped cloak that they've put on. It's because they can't see. They can't yet see what Yeshua has done. They can't see it. But their eyes aren't always going to be closed. God has a covenant with them. Their eyes aren't always going to be closed. They were closed so that people like Chris and me could come in. Right? And yeah. Terry. Hallelujah. We're going to find out that Joseph has been at the service of Potiphar for 13 years, either in his house or in his prison. And the Bible's doesn't nail it down as to which is which. It just is there. Regardless, he's in the employ of Potiphar for 13 years. And Potiphar's going to be kind of, oh, Jesus, he was so good. He's going to be kind of sad when he loses him again, right? Okay. Either way, it's been Joseph in charge ever since he came down there shortly thereafter, right? Okay, so here we go. Chapter 41. It's 1 through 13. Steve, if you're all hooked up to your microphone there, we're going to find out some things. Pharaoh has dreams too. Let's see what's going on here.
Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream. And behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly there came up out of the river 7 cows, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine-looking cows, and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. He slept and dreamed a second time. And suddenly 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. And behold, 7 thin heads, blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 thin heads devoured the 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh awoke, and indeed it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my faults this day, when Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. Both me and the chief baker, we each had a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now, there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass just as he interpreted it for us. So it happened. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him.
Okay. Interesting stuff going on here. So, cows and dreams and grain. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so dream 1, scene 1. Pharaoh's tucked away in his bed, and he's got 7 beautiful cows. Boy, that's a nice dream, right? 7 beautiful cows in the meadow, and then pretty soon 7 ugly, skinny cows eat the fat cows. This can't be right. I mean, that kind of turns into a nightmare. Okay?
That's ground beef?
That's ground beef, yeah. Pharaoh wakes up and he goes, wait a minute, wait just a cotton picking minute. That ain't natural, right? Why isn't it natural? Because cows are not carnivores. They're vegan. They eat only grass and grain. So what does this mean? What in the world does it mean? Let's take a look at this just a little bit. The religion of Egypt. To the Egyptians, the spiritual consisted of magic and sorcery and many gods and goddesses. The Pharaoh and all of his people, they believed strongly in ancient mystery Babylonian religions, okay? They considered their religion was the very center of their lives. And every facet of all their existence was all tied up in their belief system, unaware that it was a counterfeit system designed by Satan himself. Pharaoh had magicians and sorcerers as part of his close group of advisors. It looked kind of like these guys.
Oh, they magically
Here it comes. Okay, well, we'll just keep going. Look up here. I didn't, did I step on a cord? Oh. Okay, now we'll just do the, yeah, please stand by for technical difficulties. F19, right? Oh.
We're changing the film, remember?
Yeah. Oh.
They have to change the film.
Yeah.
failure.
Where's my favorite movie?
He's recovering from a bad cold. He needs some space. Sometimes these men need space.
Wow.
Because they feel like, he's agreeing, especially when you move, huh?
Or is it just sometimes?
All right, we're just
No,
gonna
he didn't want to, and he's over there.
try this over again here.
He's not contagious. No, he's not contagious, but, still,
Just good. Just
All right, here we go.
he needs to rest.
Now, if I do this again, was it offended by that picture? Here it comes. No, no. Wait for it. There it is. Okay. I just want. Okay, so this is right out of the Ten Commandments. I think that's Yul Brynner sitting there in Pharaoh's chair. But I want you. These are his magicians and his source. These are his advisors. These are his religious guys, his priests. I want you to notice that they're bald. Okay.
don't want to offend the king.
Don't want to offend the king. Right. Can't be higher than the king.
Oh, no. Welcome, Pharaoh.
Okay. Hi.
Hi, Paul.
So we had 7 fat cows, and then we had 7 ugly cows, right? That ate the cows. That's because, holy cow! I mean, this was a big deal to Pharaoh. Holy cow! Hathor is the famous goddess in ancient Egypt, and it is often depicted as a cow. You want to know where the golden calf? That's, yeah. Moses, the guys are going, oh, that Moses, he went up on that mountain 40 days. He's been gone so long, God must have killed him. He must be mad at him. Let's do something. Do something. Do something. Let's go back to Egypt. Like, that was a good idea. Right? That would, no, right? Not so much. That's where this comes from. It always has horns and a disc. Horns and a sun disc in the middle. So when you see that, you can kind of get an idea. Hathor's most famous manifestation is as a cow, and even when she appears as a woman, she either has the ears of a cow or a pair of elegant horns. Okay? Other names for her: the celestial nurse, or the mistress of heaven, or the mother of mothers, or the lady of stars, or the mistress of life, or the Virgin Mary,
Oh, no kidding.
the perpetual mother of heaven,
Mother
of, I'm not Catholic, so I mean, but that.
but Mother Earth is.
Mother Earth, okay,
Mother Earth.
all right. Yep, all right. No wonder Pharaoh was upset when these beautiful cows were destroyed, right? He must have been extremely offended, yes? Okay. I want somebody to read who's got good eyes and a good voice, can read really loud.
In Jeremiah 7:18.
You picked up the cue real well, Bill, thank you. Put the recorder on, yep.
Okay, in Jeremiah 7:18, the children gather wood, the fathers light the fire, and the women knead the dough and make the cakes of bread for the Queen of Heaven. They pour out drink offerings to other gods to provoke me to anger.
Okay, Jeremiah is going to give several examples as to why Jerusalem is about to be destroyed here. So, Bill, if you don't put the microphone down, here's another one. This is at the end of Jeremiah, Jeremiah 44.
Jeremiah 44:15-18. Then all the men who knew that their wives were burning incense to other gods, along with women who were present, a large assembly, and all the people living in Lower and Upper Egypt, said to Jeremiah, "We will not listen to the message you have spoken to us in the name of the Lord. We will certainly do everything we said we would. We will burn incense to the Queen of Heaven.
Let's put an emphasis on that. We will burn.
We will burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and we will pour out drink offerings to her just as we and our fathers, our kings, and our officials did in towns of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. At that time we had plenty of food, and we were well off and suffered no harm. But ever since we stopped burning incense to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out drink offerings to her, we've had nothing and have been perishing by sword and famine.
Wow. The children of Israel eventually became very accustomed to doing this. This is what we call idolatry. Okay, you got it? This is not in God's prescription of things to do. This is not part of the covenant that he made with his people. Was for his people to be offering incense and offerings to other gods.
Virgin Mary had to talk about the Virgin Mary. You know, they also had today, the Catholic Church all have hot cross buns at Easter.
Oh, yes, they do.
Get the bun on its raised and then it has a cross.
Is that like a cake to heaven? The cake, that's
It's an Easter time.
it's an Easter, okay. Okay. See, customs and traditions and how they all get handed down, and so I mean it's they don't realize that they're doing this. They don't necessarily realize that they're doing this, but this is why we need to kind of look closely at what the Word says, because if we read what the Word says, we find out we're not supposed to be doing this. So let's clean some of these traditions out of our way of doing things, right? If we can't, or else we walk away from that, right? Okay.
Susan, can I just
Yes,
give
please.
Mark an insight? And that is that there's kind of a gauntlet being laid down here, a line in the sand, because our translation says, you know, we will not listen to the message you have spoken to us in the name of the Lord, but that would have been Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. That would have been, you know, that, so we will not listen to the message you have said, you know, in the name of Yahovah, but we will listen to the Queen of Heaven. So they're like lining up.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yes. We're not going to listen to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. We are going to listen to the Queen of Heaven. That's a really dumb thing to say.
That's right.
Okay. And it cost Israel their entire.
I just didn't want that little
Way of doing
to
things.
get lost in our
Very-
translation.
Very good.
That would have been the name.
You're right.
That this is our God. You know,
Yep.
lining up the gods, and we're going to choose that one.
Yeah, it's all the decision of which line are you going to stand in. We are continually faced with that today. Which line are you going to stand in? Who are you going to be for, right?
That's like Elijah, wasn't it, where he told he said, well, who are you going to vote for? I mean, you're going to go for God or you're going to vote for Baal?
Yeah, yep.
Elijah.
If Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is God, then worship him. And if Baal is God, then worship him. That's what he was essentially saying. Okay, so go back to sleep, Pharaoh. Let's have another dream. He got up and had a little drink of water and thought about that a little bit. And this time, the wheat, healthy, good-looking wheat that would make any farmer happy came up. It was making him smile in his dream. Looky there. Here you go. And then all of a sudden, but soon the beautiful wheat became something else and devoured that something else. Devoured the grain. Devoured. Ba-la. Ba-la.
I can't read ballet.
Ba-la.
I can't read that.
You can't read them? Okay.
Two dots underneath it?
No, it's a hat and a line. Bala. Yeah. Devoured. To swallow down, to swallow up, to engulf. That beautiful wheat was engulfed. And he wakes up again and he goes, wait a minute. That ain't natural. Okay? That's not wheat, those are tares. Wheat in the background here. Remember we talked about wheat I think it was last week, and that when the berries grow up in the head and shortly before harvest they start bowing. The mature wheat bows. The tares don't. They just stand there and wave around in the wind. That's what made the Pharaoh sick last week, remember? Okay, so Pharaoh wants to know what these dreams mean. He's got they're vivid, they're memorable, and they're very mysterious to him, and they're a message from the gods about the land, but he doesn't know what it means. He wants to know what it means. And no one in his entire house could tell him what that meant, even though he was surrounded by all those bald magicians and sorcerers and wise men, okay?
Why were they bald? Because the Pharaoh was bald?
No, but no, we'll get into that in a minute, I think. Yeah, just a second. Just shaving a haircut 2 bits here pretty soon. Okay, take us 9 to 13.
Yeah,
9 to 13?
yeah.
Okay, 9 to 13. Yeah, we're ready. We've already read it. That's what scared me. I'm going, oh my gosh, I messed that up. Okay, 9 to 13. Oh yeah, each had a dream. Okay, so I'll let that one fly away. But the butler remembers to remember finally. Pharaoh tells his sorcerers, and they are of absolutely no help to him whatsoever. And the chief butler then spoke to the Pharaoh, and he says, I remember my faults this day. And that word in Hebrew is my sins. It wasn't just my faults. I'm really bad at this. You know, no, he remembered his sins, and he has this little talk to Pharaoh. Here he is with his butler tray, remember? Okay. So everyone is still referring to Pharaoh in the third person, which is interesting. And I wonder why it was custom not to address him directly, for he was considered a god to the Egyptians. So they're always going to refer to him in the third person.
They don't look at him either, right?
No, they don't look at him. The chief responsibility of the Pharaoh was to maintain Ma'at, and that was the name of their head god, his universal harmony to him, okay, in the country. The goddess, I guess it's not a god, it's a goddess. The goddess Ma'at was thought to work her will through the Pharaoh, but it was up to the individual ruler to interpret the goddess's will correctly and then to act on it, okay? So these guys were all pretty much doing what was right in their own eyes, okay? We get that idea from the book of the Judges, okay? So the butler once had been restored to his position. It never occurred to him to help Joseph. Why should a high-ranking Egyptian official help a prison slave? Let's see. Many years later, Nebuchadnezzar had his own magicians and sorcerers beheaded for not being able to interpret his dream. Of course, he wanted them to do the interpretation without telling them what the dream was. They couldn't, but Daniel did. And we're going to wind up today. I want you to be very much aware God always has a man in whatever empire is in charge. That's how smart God is. Because, like we talked about last week, and I'm becoming more and more convinced of this, because he knows the end from the beginning. I said that backwards. I'm so Dutch. He knows the beginning from the end, right? And he's moving, it's almost like he's moving backward through time, so nothing surprises him. He never ever says, oh shoot, I didn't think of that. I didn't know they were going to do that. No, he knows everything, and he moves backwards. We're the ones that are moving forward. And I heard a talk this week, you guys. All the prayer, I hope this is a word of encouragement for you, to you. All the prayers you have been praying throughout the years, I don't care how long you've been praying. Maybe you've been praying for a week, or maybe you've been praying for 30 years. I don't know. But all those prayers, they're going this way. They've been going this way. And if God's been going from the end to the beginning, he said it's like these prayers are attached to a comet, and they're about to intersect time.
Whoa.
Okay? That comes from Dutch Sheets. I trust that guy. They are about to intersect time. He's been telling me this about the end from the beginning for the last 3 weeks now, and I'm going. And then a couple days ago, he showed me this thing, and everybody's talking about the end from the beginning. I mean, the end from the beginning. Yeah. All the prayers you've been praying. He says we are entering into the cusp of a new era, which is why things are beginning to happen. You saw it on the news this morning.
Yeah.
Evil is being exposed. Stuff is beginning to happen. Finally, the mops and the bucket and the dust cloths and the brooms are showing up on aisle 6, and it's going to get cleaned up. Okay? Hey, who was praying? Hang on. Who said that in their prayer today? Just hang on, it's coming. Who did that? One of you guys prayed that way. Hang on, it's Myra. Did you pray that way? Did you? You don't know what you're so in the spirit, you don't know what you're praying. At any rate, don't give up, never ever, ever, never give up, okay? Promise me you won't ever give up, okay? Don't give up on God. He knows what he's doing, and he's exactly right on time. Time is such an earthbound thing. When you think of time, and we think of light years, and you know, if you would have lived on Jupiter, you would not care what time it was on Earth. You would not care that it takes 24 hours for this beautiful blue planet to go around. You would be concerned with your own time. Time, Earth is the only one who's concerned with time, the way we measure it. Okay? God's out in eternity. But eternity is about to intersect time. It doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, major changes happen. Somebody go praise God, please.
Praise God.
It's good. Hallelujah. Okay, so the fact that Pharaoh was willing to give this guy Joseph a try at the butler's recommendation, for crying out loud, that ain't natural either. That's an act of God. Yes, ma'am.
Don't you think Potiphar had been kind of telling Pharaoh on the side about his great attendance? That maybe there was something there, or that, you know, the prison was run so well?
I'm sure that Potiphar had reports that things were going very well in his prison, but I'm not sure. There's no indication of them. Indication, but it could. You know, in our imagination, the theater of our minds, we could imagine that certainly. Okay, so we have the players here. It's supernatural. The players are Pharaoh, the most powerful man in the world. The magicians, soothsayers. They're well known in Egypt, and they were not able to unpack these dreams for him. And the butler, he was set free from prison 2 years prior to this incident. These are the cast of players that we have. And Joseph, the Hebrew who has been working in Pharaoh's prison for at least 2 years, maybe 13 years. He's been running the place for as long as he's been there, save maybe 24 hours. Anyway, these guys couldn't help him. This whole thing is supernatural. And here comes Joseph, okay? All right, 14 to 24, Steve. Joseph is going to get all dressed up to meet the Pharaoh. And Joseph introduces Pharaoh to God. So let's see what happens here.
Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. And he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream, to interpret it. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Behold, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river. Suddenly 7 cows came up out of the river, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them, poor and very ugly and gaunt, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Egypt. And the gaunt and ugly cows ate up the first 7, the fat cows. When they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were just as ugly as at the beginning. So I awoke. Also I saw in my dream, and suddenly 7 heads came up on one stalk, full and good. Then behold, 7 heads, withered, thin, and blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the thin heads devoured the 7 good heads. So I told this to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me.
Okay. So Joseph gets a shave and gets all cleaned up before he goes to see Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh has shaving a haircut 2 bits, you know. He shaved himself and changed his raiment.
Clothes.
And he came to Joseph. So this word shaved here is the word galak, and it means to shave bald. So he didn't just shave his beard. So he's coming, he shaved his whole head. Okay, so he's coming before, that must be a sign of submission or something. Cleanliness, okay.
I think the Elijah were being very clean, and they felt that the shaved head was hall was also part of that thing.
Part of that culture thing. Yeah, okay.
It was the higher-ups.
The higher-ups that did it? Egypt, yeah. Okay, interesting.
All right, Susan.
Here we go. What? No, wait a minute. 2 bits. Thank you. Okay. So imagine Joseph here with a bald head. Okay, these are American presentations, so he's going to have hair, but he's got a nice head of hair. Anyway, Potiphar brings Joseph out of the prison and brings him up to Pharaoh. Says goodbye, and Pharaoh gets right to the point. Do you do dreams? You mean there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance. He wants to know, and Joseph listens intently, and he says, I don't do dreams, but God does. Oh, Pharaoh's about to be introduced to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, okay? And Joseph is certainly up to the task. I love the expressions as we go through these slides on this guy, on Joseph's face. This guy must be part Italian because he's talking with his hands. And he retells the story word for word. Okay, word for word. And look at it, he's listening. You can tell how he's listening. And he's telling him some more. Now here comes the ugly cows here to do this. Do you know what? Ugly cows. That's exactly right, Cohen. Ugly cows. And here comes the beautiful wheat. And he's listening. Look at I love how he's listening. I love how he's listening. And then here come the tares. I want you to know that this word for ugly, I forgot to say this. This word for ugly isn't just, oh, those are really ugly. It's the word ra, and it means evil. We've got evil coming. Okay? This is what Joseph was about to tell him, I guess. So he's still listening. Okay. So now he's had the story, and now let's see what Joseph is going to tell him what to do here. Steve, 25 to 36, and it'll finish up the portion, believe it or not.
Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, "The dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one. And the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads blighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them 7 years of famine will arise. And all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and all the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe." And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over all the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food and all those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh. And let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, and the land may not perish during the famine.
Okay. Joseph listened with 2 ears before speaking with his 1 mouth. There's a lesson in there somewhere. Did your mom ever tell you, listen, you've got 2 ears and you've got 1 mouth? Joseph listened intently to everything that he said before he said anything. He just listened. So here stands the Hebrew slave in the company of Pharaoh and the high religious leaders of the empire, and Pharaoh's advisors couldn't help him. And they were prophetic dreams of holy truth given by God to Pharaoh, and worldly knowledge wouldn't help. Are we living in those kind of days today?
Yes.
We're getting to the point where worldly stuff isn't going to help. We're going to need to be seeking the Lord in prayer, you know. And Christians have a huge responsibility and a very big part to play in these days that we're living in. The words that are coming out of your mouth are very important. They might not be any more than, no, I won't do that. Some people need to say, no, I won't do that. That's part of establishing the kingdom. And sometimes they might say, can I help you with this? And that's part of establishing the kingdom too. I'm going to say this. So I went to Chautauqua the other night, over in Greeley, and watched Eleanor Roosevelt and Mark Twain. History people from history. You ought to go there sometimes. It's their 20th year. They've been doing these history talks, and it's a week-long celebration over in Greeley at Ames Community College. Big tent and all this stuff. And so anyway, Eleanor Roosevelt was talking about how important words have always been to her. Words were very important to her entire life. And her mother died at the age of 29. Eleanor was 8. And her mother was of very high society, you can imagine, the Roosevelt family. And she very rich, and she said the thing that the wealthy, rich people was important to those back in those days was their looks. Okay? Money was just a given. And she said, my mother turned to me when I was about 8 years old. She said to me, you better watch your manners. You better learn really good manners because you don't have the looks. No, she didn't, but she didn't. So her father, who was very sick with alcoholism, okay, because he was very, and he was away a lot, but she loved him, and they had a really close bond, and she loved him very much, and he would write her letters, and he said, Eleanor, he said, always use your words. Use words to express yourself to other people. He says, go down the lane and watch the workmen at the next field building the house. And watch them lay stones one upon another and watch the house go up, and it's going to be a beautiful home. Watch these men do this. And he said, to you, in your mind, those men are your ideas. And the stones that they're building are words. Use your words to build beautiful things and give them to people. He said it's one thing to say something to somebody, but it's quite another thing to write the words down and to hand them to someone. Because now you're handing them a piece of your heart.
Was it concrete?
It's concrete. Yeah. It's beautiful. I mean, that was beautiful. There's a lot of things that Eleanor Roosevelt did that I didn't agree with. The United Nations thing, and anyway, blah de blah. But that was very important, and words are very important. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is the words that come out of your mouth. You can sit down, not only pray, but sit down sometime when you're sitting there with the Lord and you're having your quiet time and you're reading His Word. Take notes, write God a letter, and make some declarations about what's going on here. Those are important to Him, and they're concrete, right, Cynthia? That would be a concrete thing to do. Write them out. Send somebody, I dare you. I don't dare you, I'm just asking you to do this. Send somebody a letter. You remember how excited, back in the 70s, we would go to the mailbox and there would be a letter from your mom across the country. And, you couldn't wait to open it up. It'd be the first, heck with the bills. You would open up the letter from your mom and read the words from your mom, right? And there would always be some kind of an encouraging something or other in there from your mom, right? Right, and now that our moms are gone, y'all have letters from your mom somewhere tucked away. There you go. Yes, ma'am.
And soldiers in the Vietnam War, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have internet.
Right.
Those letters were like
gold.
death.
Yeah.
Because men that got your job letters also died in combat. Because they lost.
They didn't have anything to go home for. Oh, well.
Yeah, they lost
Of course.
the will to live.
Well,
That's what these women didn't understand.
yeah. Okay. I'm going to get off on that. I don't know. Anyway, so worldly knowledge will seldom help in a spiritual situation. Let's just put it that way. And that's what we are entering into, this realm that we're entering into, this change of time. We're entering into very spiritual days. And Joseph is about to announce the truth to Pharaoh. And can he handle the truth? Remember that movie? And you can't. Truth, you can't handle it. Let's see. Joseph said to Pharaoh that the dreams are one, and God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. Okay. Here's where the ugliness is. The ugliness is of the cows. The ugly. They're gaunt, and such ugliness I have never seen, said Pharaoh. And the gaunt, ugly cow. Well, the word is ra down here. It literally means evil. They're bad. These bad cows are not just skinny cows. They're evil. So plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following it, for it will be very severe. Severe. Kabad. Hard, difficult, and very burdensome. And no. The years of plenty. He's saying you're going to have 7 years of plenty. And they're going to be 7 years of really bad. So you better do something with the 7 years of plenty, because that's what you're going to have to work with. Okay? Right? Oh, blighted by the same famine. So we got, cows are going to have a trouble. Okay, so he said, and the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the thing is established by God. Established. That means this. Established is, and it literally means it's going to be set up, it's going to be securely determined, it's a fixed thing. This is going to be a fixed thing. There's no way around this. There's going to be 7 years of plenty, and then there's going to be 7 years of not so plenty. And it just kind of made, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering, are we in that phase of 7 years of plenty? Are we going to be going into a phase of 7 years of not so much plenty? It could be. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but it could be. You're going to win so much, you're going to get tired of winning.
Oh, no.
Real? I mean, no. But I'm saying that the announcement of plenty has been made, and we're halfway through that, right? And we're about to go into another election of 4 more years, right? And there's going to be more plenty up until maybe the last year. I don't know, right? You do the math. Ask the Lord. I have furrowed brows. Maybe it's just going to be sunshine, lollipops, and roses until Jesus comes back. I don't know. Maybe so.
Probably not.
Probably not. Maybe not so much.
We had 8 years, prior to this, we had 8 years of.
Terrible. Maybe it's reversed.
Maybe we've already, it's the bookend.
It's the bookend. Maybe we've already had that. Maybe we've already had. That could be. That could very well be.
But it does say that they will forget the plenty.
Yeah.
Oh, it does?
Do.
Okay.
Yeah, when things are good and when things turn bad,
Yeah.
we hard to remember those good things.
I'm telling you, every time you go to the grocery store and you come home and you unpack your groceries, thank God. Thank you, Lord, that there was plenty at that grocery store for us to choose from and to stock our shelves with. Thank you that there's enough.
Money for it.
Yes, the source is there. Yeah, the supply is there. Yes,
I
ma'am.
thought it was very interesting that Joseph said, guard the plenty, even from the beginning. He said, I thought that I read that it was to be guarded, the plenty, where they were to store the grain. It was to be guarded.
Where does it say? Oh, indeed, the 7 years of great plenty will come throughout the land of Egypt. Okay?
But after them, the years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be forgotten.
And all the plenty, okay, will be, sure enough, you're right, I skipped that. I must have gotten fixated on the plenty. I like plenty. Okay. There's no maybe or perhaps about this established truth. This is what's going to happen. And this is what Joseph is letting this guy know. And this guy is picking up it's eye-to-eye contact. This is not happening in a message. He's not reading it in a memo. It's no texting, no telephone. It's eye-to-eye stuff. And things are, when you talk eye-to-eye to somebody, I heard this the other day. All kinds of things happen between two people. Communication happens between two people. And I forget, the chemicals are being released in each person's brain, and they're communicating back and forth this way. It's not so much on an email.
Or text.
Or text, yeah. Yeah, it's really this, which is one of the big problems that we're having in our country today.
That's right.
Our young people going around there, and I find myself walking around going, I do. I'm addicted to that thing.
Can you put here?
Yes, sir.
A while back, Lee and I did a class on being aware, walking along doing this.
Yes.
Perpetrators see you as a victim.
That's right.
Perpetrators see you as a victim like that.
And one of the things that I heard was when that gunman came in. Now there's different things. Sometimes people are saying there's several gunmen. There wasn't one. But anyway, how many people were in their phones and not salvaged? And this one man said, when you go in a place, you take a look, where are the exits?
It's true.
The front, the back. Walmart has 3 or 4 exits. So you're receiving, front. The guy came in the front, well, supposedly. But other shooters from the side.
Wow.
See, that's what,
Wow.
as a firefighter, when you went in a place, you always look for a way out, other than from where you came in.
Yeah.
Because that place, that way may be blocked. And oftentimes it was.
And policemen, when they go into a restaurant, they'll always sit on the side of the table that has an eye to the door.
Yes.
Right, I think. Right?
That's right.
Except, anyway, she has my 6. So I can sit with my back to the door, and she goes, over here at 7, there's somebody that looks a little weird. So.
You're sizing up looking over the situation, right? Yeah.
I do that.
Okay.
He said, no, he's at 9.
So Joseph is doing something. He's telling the Pharaoh, and he's giving him some suggestions about coming up with an administrative plan. Someone would have that would avert the coming but sure disaster that's on its way. Planning, policy, survival for the people to survive. Oh, stop. I mean, really.
They're checking the back door.
Yeah, I'm checking the back door. Gift of administration is at work here. Okay. Why is Joseph talking to him in the third person? Let Pharaoh, he's talking right to him. He's saying, I was going to say, if I was talking to Myra. Now, let Myra appoint somebody to do, right? I mean, that's what he's doing. He's looking right at Pharaoh, and he's saying, let Pharaoh, let him appoint officers over the land to collect 20% of the produce for the 7 good years. That's all it was going to take. It wasn't like he had to take everything away and tax the rich people 95% and to take 20% of the produce and put it for the next 7 years and put it away, and that's going to be enough to pay to feed the people during the 7 bad years.
100% plus 10%.
That's right.
And nobody's going to be hungry, because nobody wants to be hungry. I've been around Myra at 11:30. Her stomach starts growling and she gets hungry, And she'll look at me and she'll say, I'm hungry. All right.
She said that at 8:30.
So there's good news and bad news. There's going to be 7 years of awesome plenty, and there's going to be 7 years of awful famine. So preparation needs to be made now. Okay, so we could do a doodah thing, but just store up some extra stuff on your pantry shelves when you go to the grocery store and there's 2 cans of beans and those are 2 for 29 cents or I guess $1.29, and buy them. Start putting some stuff up on the shelf for a little bit, so because so just so we won't be dumber. We don't have to be official or anything like that, and we're not going to panic because that's not going to do any good, right? But preparation needs to be made now to take advantage of the awesome plenty, so that people will survive during this. So God is combining several things that need to take place at the right time, because right time is everything, right? He even turns the heart of the king of the most powerful empire on earth to hear him. Do you suppose that's why President Trump is hearing? Because God has gone, I want you to hear me? That's exactly what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. Because it's time. It's time for leaders of nations to hear and make choices for their people. And do you think the enemy is going to just roll over and play dead and go, oh, well, okay, well, I guess it is nearing the end of the time that I know I'm going to lose anyway. No, he's going to fight back, right? Fighting back. The lasagna's fighting back, all right.
He's been counting on us to do that. The enemy's been counting on us to roll over and play dead.
Yes.
The enemy.
I'm going to,
We have done.
and we have done. We're a bunch of namby-pamby. Oh, well. Maybe I shouldn't get involved in politics because, well, I mean, God's going to come back. Jesus is going to come back one of these days anyway. I'm going to remind you again, I'm going to say this, and this is my new position. Until God changes it, I'm going to stick right here. What Jesus came to do 2,000 years ago, he defeated death and the grave. But you know what? Evil didn't go anywhere. Okay? We've had now 2,000 more years. Now, and he said to you, Chris, I want you to overcome evil with good. You can do that now because God's writing his word on your heart. Before you couldn't do that. None of them were able to do that, pretty much, right?
Right.
This next time, when the Lion of Judah comes back, it's going to be about evil's going to be crushed under his foot. And he wants your help to do this, right? Okay. It's that simple. It's not hard.
But it's constant.
It's constant. It's constant. It's constant. It's constant good. Yeah. It's doing the right thing, right? And the more people and more people tell other people about Jesus and what he came to do 2,000 years ago, to bring you back so you can come back into God's presence. Wow, that's really cool. But that doesn't mean you don't have. You just sit around on a cloud and just wait for him to come back and pick you up on the rapture bus somewhere. No. No.
Another cloud up there. What do they call that cloud?
I don't know.
Internet cloud?
Internet cloud, yeah.
The cloud.
The cloud. Yes. Yes, please.
This week on his weekly report, Monty Judah has some words of warning about that very thing. It's really worth the watch. It's about 20 minutes.
Am I in agreement with him?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, good. Yay. I love it when I'm in agreement with Monty Judah.
Monty Judah.
From Lion and Lamb Ministry.
Oh, yeah,
His annual, or his weekly report.
His weekly report? Okay.
He takes some time to talk about a movie that's coming out called Hunted.
All that.
Oh my gosh, yes. Have you seen that? No.
But he talks about like the mindset that's there and is how it can roll into society. So
Yeah. Hopefully,
it'll give us something to pray against.
yes, absolutely.
Pray down.
Yeah.
Like
Like,
Hollywood is.
maybe that movie just melts and those computers just melt or something somewhere. That's terrible. Okay, so this guy's sizing over the situation. Crop patterns over a 14-year period are forecasted. The report's coming out. And as supreme ruler of the people, the Pharaoh was considered a god on earth and the intermediary between the gods and the people. And when he died, he was thought to become Osiris, the god of the dead. Did you know that?
No.
You die and you grow into a God, right? In Christianity, if you die without God, you're going to be separated. It's just terrible. Anyway, so that's not the truth. Anyway, the king's heart is in the hand of Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, and like the rivers of water, he turns it wherever he wishes, lest we think he's not in control of things. Oh, yes, he is. Every day, every minute of every day. He knows exactly what's going on. So the prophecy from abundance, so much abundance, to lack and drought and famine. That's a heavy message for any king to hear. In fact, no other king has ever had to hear such a message. There's not another message like that prophesied in the Bible. Joseph makes a very much of a policy speech on survival. He set forth a policy plan that, if followed, would save the world and from the famine that was sure to come. And Pharaoh's to-do list consisted of gather the grain. This is really simple. Store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and keep or guard the foods in the cities. That's the plan. The most powerful political political individual on the earth thought that Joseph's advice was sound and good. Pharaoh's going, I like that. That makes a lot of sense, right? The food shall become as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine that is going to be coming to Egypt. A supreme ruler of the people, the Pharaoh, was considered, I just said that on the last slide. I repeat it again. He's a god, and when he died, he was thought to become Osiris. So as a Hebrew, sold and betrayed by his brother, Joseph will, by the power of the Holy Spirit, save the world from the terrible famine that is coming upon them. It's just that simple.
And most particularly his people, right?
And yes, this is the preparation plan to save, and all Israel will be saved from the famine. Okay. That's a nice way to look at that. Okay, so the advice was good. Clearly the Ruach was flowing through Joseph, and this is one of the great suddenly changes in the Bible. Okay? We're going to go from this to this in 7 years.
Susan?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they ever ask why, or what can we do to stop this? They never, that didn't occur?
No, Joseph said a couple times, this is an established thing. There's nothing that's going to happen that's going to stop this. This is not going to change. This is what's going to happen. 7 years of really great plenty, and 7 years of really great awful. Okay, so if in 7 years of just regular people got by, in 7 years of really great plenty, 20% is going to be more than the average 20%. Right?
Amazing.
But see, it's interesting because later on, like when Jeremiah's talking, he's saying this is going to happen if you don't. Or if this is going to happen if you will. I mean, there's that part of it, but they were under the covenant by then.
Right here, we're still a fledgling family, and we'll find next week or the week after 70. There's only 70 people in this little fledgling family that winds up being in Egypt, and from those little 70, they're going to grow into a nation of several million, and it's going to take another 215 years for that to happen. But yeah. So God's okay. This is the miracle part, and to Egypt ahead of his brothers, because God knows the end from the beginning. Why? So he could give this information to Pharaoh, the world's most powerful man. Okay? So that his brothers would not starve to death, nor the rest of the world. And Joseph was served as the deliverer for his family and the world. And he comes to become this picture of this deliverer. Okay? God has spoken, this is where we go. God has spoken to the leaders of other empires as well. For Pharaoh, the next question was who is going to make sure that all that needs to be done is done. And the answer was obvious. The man God chose to deliver the message should be the one to carry out the preparations. Joseph will go into that next week. Pharaoh's going to go, well, you sound like the man with the plan. I'm going to choose you. You're going to come up here and you're going to be right next to me, and you're going to see that all this plays out. So God chose Pharaoh. God showed Pharaoh that this was going to happen, and he chooses Joseph. But there's other guys, other empire guys too. God showed Nebuchadnezzar what to do, and Daniel was the deliverer of the message. God shows Darius what to do. Daniel is the deliverer of the message. God showed Cyrus what to do. Daniel is still the deliverer of the message. Daniel had a lot to say, didn't he? Okay. And now, God showed Benjamin Netanyahu what to do. A man by the name of Robert Merari. You ever heard of him? Was the man who delivered the message to, I'm going to show you here in just a minute. You're going to love this. And God showed Donald Trump what to do.
That's right.
Who is cute?
No, I've heard.
I know you have. Okay. I'm going to tell you right now, there's Dr. I've had the privilege, way back in the early days of Netanyahu's doodah thing, after he did this, but you're just about to hear, of meeting this man. I flew down to Texas. I met him down there at a household doodah thing. We invited him to come up to Colorado, to high places up to Estes Park in the next month, and he came, and we filled up the whole assembly of the whatever at the Holiday Inn up there, the auditorium. And this guy is really cool. He's a believer from Rhodesia. Yeah.
Oh, Rhodesia.
Rhodesia.
Which, it's not Rhodesia. It's not Rhodesia anymore, is it?
Oh, I don't know what it is, but that's where he grew up. Yeah, that's where he's from. I want you to listen. This is about a 10-minute clip, and you're just really going to enjoy this. He's going to have something. The Lord sent him to Benjamin Netanyahu, and he also sent him to Ariel Sharon. And watch the difference.
Don't turn off your mic.
Don't turn off my mic?
Turn it off.
Why?
So I can get the audio.
Oh, so you can get the audio. Okay. Okay. Cohen, you're going to have to be real quiet if his audio's on. Here we go. Joel, why have I died? Did somebody turn that off?
I muted this so you can get all your notifications.
Okay, all right.
Only play when we're playing.
Okay. Is it on?
Yep.
27, 29?
Yep.
Okay.
Needs to go back and it's a great honor to be part of that.
This is in sync.
With the people died. And I said to him, I need you to be part of this supporting Israel. He said, you mean we support secular Jews?
Yes, yeah.
I said, yes. He says, you want me to go tell my pastors that we're going to raise money to support secular Jews? I said, yes. He said, well, how do you tell people that? I said, I'll give you a sign. Because they will not buy it. They're not going to buy that.
Right.
You know, we can pray for the Messianic congregations and other things, but support the city of Ariel. We can do that. I said, here's what you tell them. Tell them that if they write a check, he said, how much money do you need for me to be part of this? I said, $50,000. He said, $50,000. I said, yeah, you pay to fly. And he said, how do I get my pastors to agree to this? I said, this will be what you tell them. Tell them that they to write the check, $50,000, and put it aside. Now, that Sunday, you're going to double the offering.
Right.
It's going to be more than any other offering you've ever received. Wow. Then you shall know the Lord God is sent you, and that shall be a sign to them. Oh, okay. I think we can do that. So he told his pastors, well, Robert says this shall be a sign that those who bless Israel will be blessed. We're going to write this check and put it aside. Now, we'll take the offering and we'll count the offering 7 days. Then I'll call Robert and tell him yes or no. So they called me and said, Robert, it's amazing. The offering doubled.
Right.
And all the pastors were watching, being counted, and it doubled.
Wow.
He says, when you need this $50,000, I said, just send it to Israel. Says, we'll send one of the pastors directly to Ariel to deliver the check.
Wow.
And that's what they did.
Tell us it out to work in Ariel.
Let me just talk to our viewers right now, because often we think of just saved and unsaved. But God is dealing with three groups of people. You know, in 1 Corinthians 10:32, it talks talks about, give no offense to the Jew, to the Gentile, or to the church of God. And God has a covenant with the Jews that is irrevocable, even in their state of being restored to him. And that's what our pastor is doing. He's standing with the Jewish people. He's standing with God's irrevocable covenant, and we're seeing God's miracle power come alive in people in Ariel. I've been to Ariel. It's amazing.
I've been to
What the young
Ariel.
people, for Joshua's camp, or they call it Joshua's camp or something, right?
Yes.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we helped in Ariel from a regular city into a smart city. And raised all the money and put the computers and just made them the leading smart city in the world.
Right.
And all that's just part of blessing Israel. And one of the most amazing things, I'll tell you this miracle.
Yeah.
When we started transforming Ariel into the leading smart city, we needed the money.
Right.
And this is so funny. There was a man come to my meeting. He didn't believe in God, and he didn't believe in listening to black people. So his friend brought him to the meeting, and he got mad. And he told me when he was leaving, I'm a redneck, and I hate you kind of people. And I didn't like anything to do with you. So he went playing golf with my friend. Halfway through playing golf, he says, give me the phone number of that. So he said, man, don't do that. He said, no, just give it to me. So he calls me, he says, Robert, I'm the redneck that was in the meeting. I said, okay. He said, I can't play my game. All I'm thinking is born again, born again, born again. What is born again? So I lead him to the Lord.
Oh my goodness.
At 5 o'clock, the same guy calls me, he says, you mentioned something about what you're doing in Israel, in Ariel. Do you need mobilization funds? I said, yes. He said, how much is that? I said, $250,000. He said, if you can meet me at this place, you mind I give you the check. So I went and got my $250,000 for the feasibility. After that, I get a call from the Prime Minister's office, Benjamin Netanyahu, says, meet me in Hollywood, big conference. I go there and I'm the only Gentile, and President Netanyahu says, Dr. Robert Mawiri is building a leading smart city with my mayor, Ron Nachman here. We're pleased to see the church and the Gentiles engaging with us in fulfilling biblical prophecy that the Jews will come back. And that we are back because we're waiting for the Messiah.
He's becoming a man of wisdom because he's learning along the way from when he started bringing those words to him back. He's been studying the Bible with his son, he's been learning, and now he's much more humble and he's the right man for the hour.
He's an amazing man. He is an anointed man like David.
Right.
He has the wisdom of Solomon. He is God's man right now as a leader in the world. He's the only leader in the world.
Absolutely, and we're calling for our viewers to pray for Benjamin Netanyahu because he is the spokesman for the Bible today. I believe that, Miles. He's been studying and he's been speaking. He spoke to us when we were there in Israel a couple months ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, by contrast, you also brought a word and a warning to Ariel Sharon about the land.
Oh.
I did. Sobering. God said go back to Israel and speak to Ariel Sharon and tell him that in 6 months he'll be prime minister. Well, I didn't know how to meet him. God got everything. When he tells you something, it's prepared, it's done. And I get a phone call to meet Ariel Sharon at the library. And I have about 50 people with me. So we all go together to the library, and I said, Ariel Sharon, the Lord has sent me to tell you you're going to be prime minister in 6 months. He said, I'm about to be indicted on war crimes. My political future is over. I said, but this shall be a sign to you. You will not go to Hague, you are going to be prime minister. But when you become prime minister, honor the covenant that God made with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. God will defend the territorial integrity of his land.
Yes.
So you never negotiate land for peace.
Yeah.
Obey the Lord and he will bless you. He said, I will read this. I gave him all the scriptures about the return of the Jews, the redemption as they call it. And I said, these are the scriptures that are being fulfilled right now. And this is why you should honor the Lord. He said, I will look at them and read them every day. If I ever become prime minister, I said, but here this The Lord told me that the day you disobey His word, like in ancient times, He's going to strike you. So please, please, when He makes you Prime Minister, do not remove the Jews from the land. And the day He did that, that's the day that He had a attack.
That's so sobering for all of us.
You know, we were meeting in 2005 in Washington, D.C. with some major leaders to try to get that message to Ariel Sharon and to George Bush at the time. Do not do this. Do not give away Gaza. It will become a terror state. Don't do it. And we know the rest is history.
We're calling on all of you to stand for Israel and to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and to know that Jeremiah, God has a great answer for us in His Word, doesn't He?
Jeremiah 33:3, call on me, and I will answer you, show you great and mighty things that you do not know. We'll be back after this.
Susan, who are the husband and wife that are interviewing?
Miles, and it's oh, my good friend, what's his name? He died.
Oh, yeah.
But he was, when Bush was president.
Yeah. Zola Levitt. They took it. Zola Levitt Presents. It's the host of that program that they took over. Yeah, Miles and his wife. His guy's name is Miles. I can't remember what his wife's name is. But they took over the Zola Levitt Ministries. So there you go.
The thing about Mr. Netanyahu is that this man went over to give him the message to her, way back in the 96, I think it's 96. And he told her, you are not to give up any land. Like the same message to the page, you're not to give up any land. God said, make you Prime Minister, you're not to give up any of the land. Well, and he gave him Prime Minister. And he gave up the portion of the West Bank and Hebron, and he was not Prime Minister anymore. Quickly after that. And what happened? And Ferrari went back and talked. So he went back and he talked to them. He talked to them again. He said, he's going to put you back into office.
This has been a presentation of Fellowship of Messiah with teacher Susan Miller. Video editing by Joel Thompson. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up icon below the screen on the left, and subscribe by clicking the bell icon below this video and to the right to be notified of each new video we post. Know someone else who'd love this video? Click the arrow pointing to the right in the upper right hand corner of this video and share. Until next time, Shavua Tov. Have a good week. And may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord cause His face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you His everlasting peace and harmony in every area of your life. In Hebrew, that is, Yivarekeka Yahuwah v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Yahuwah panav alecha v'yikuneka, Yisa Yahuwah panav alecha v'yasem lecha shalom.